All right, so this is going to be my final video journal entry for my March 2023 tour diary. So obviously, if you're watching right now, you've probably been following along on YouTube or Instagram. If not, you can always scroll back through those and kind of see what I've been doing. And I thought about having these bullet points of points I wanted to say and make. But honestly, I just want to shoot from the hip and be authentic. Because really what I want to do is I'm not trying to put up smoke and mirrors here, but I'm really trying to have authentic dialogue with people who are watching or just showing what it's like to be a musician and, all the good and bad parts and all the challenges of it. And I was also talking with another one of my drummer friends and saying, I'm putting these things like about the ability to sleep on the floor, the ability to just roll with the punches, the ability to exist in, suboptimal living conditions or circumstances. And saying how I wish I would have understood this when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I thought it was all about playing, and that's all I focused on. And there wasn't a lot of give on my end. If somebody promised something and they didn't deliver it, I would hold them to it and say, no, you said this, and this is what I'm going to stick to. And I was probably a little bit difficult when I was younger. I still probably am to a degree. And that probably held my career back when I was younger. And that's something I'm constantly working on now is how can I be more approachable? How can I be easier to work with? Because frankly, touring, I would say less than 10% of it is music. Before I talk about anything, I wanted to talk about music. And music is still always something I'm a little bit self-conscious about and something I'm always afraid of that I'm not going to be good enough or not be as prepared as I should be. And I think part of that is because I value music so much and music is so important to me. But also I think part of that is when I was younger, I may have showed up on a gig where I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, or I wasn't the strongest person in the group. I was the weak link. And either getting fired from a gig or either not getting called back or just stinking up the joints, really that stuck with me. And I would say almost traumatized or scarred me in a way that it's pushed me to like never be that person again. And of course I was afraid of that when I showed up in this gig, and after playing this for the past month, I would say that wasn't an issue at all. I was ready. My playing was good. I think everyone was happy with it. And that's about 10% of it. The other parts, the other 90%. And a friend of mine likes to use a Merle Haggard quote. And he says that when he was signing up to become a musician, he didn't realize he was actually signing up for a 50-year bus ride. And that really is kind of what being a musician is in some degrees. And what he means by that is if you're going to be a musician, you have to take your music all around the world, all around the country, and there's a lot of travel involved, and that's a big part of the gig. And there's some great musicians who just understandably don't want to travel or to say, what, that's not my thing, and they kind of stay more local. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I really want to share my music with as many people as possible. I want to make music with as many people as possible, experience as many things as possible. So I'm on that 50-year bus ride, and that was pretty much what the majority of the last month was, just riding around in a van. And one thing I think about doing any type of touring, whether you're riding in a van, whether you're on a jet plane, whether you're on a tour bus, in some degree, after an extended period of time, it's going to expose some things because that's what stress does. Stress exposes kind of cracks in your system. If everything is, going along peachy keen, you can usually handle a lot of stress. But when you're on the road, you're maybe not sleeping as well as you would like to, maybe not eating the foods you're used to eating, maybe not as comfortable, you don't have as much control of your environments. That stress kind of, it exposes some things in you, and maybe that exposes some kind of flaws in you, some things that you really didn't realize that you need or part of how you are designed or programmed, or maybe exposes some things, some parts about you that aren't made out for touring life. And for me going into this, I know that sleeping regularly is really important to me. Eating regularly is super important. Exercising, super important. And all those things were kind of challenged. And that caused a little bit of stress for me. But fortunately, we had a cooler. Fortunately, I packed a lot of food. Fortunately, I was able to find places to exercise, and I really kind of prioritized my sleep as much as I could, and that helped kind of mitigate some things for me. I didn't drink, didn't do any drugs. There's nothing wrong with that, but like I was straight the entire tour, and that wasn't a challenge for me at all. And for me, that was, oh, I can have control over my body and how I feel. And I know that if I had a drink or two on a gig, I might feel okay in the moment. But if I'm like sleeping a couple hours and getting up and driving 4 hours to the next gig the next day, I'm probably not going to feel that great. So I just kind of made a promise to myself, okay, not drinking, not doing any really extracurricular activities on this tour, and that worked out really great for me. Another thing, if you're in a relationship, if you have a family, if you have kids, if you have a dog, if you have a partner, sometimes touring can be really stressful and taxing. And I would say for me, it was to a certain extent that I just I just really miss my partner. She's great, and I missed her in a really serious way. Miss my dog, and there was like never for me. There was never any moments where I would forget about her or I would like wish I was single because yeah, I don't wish I was single, and there wasn't a moment like that. So for me, there was no challenges. For some other people, there might be, and that's fine. I mean, I think relationships are always, requiring work to invest in, and I think sometimes being on the road that stress can kind of expose cracks in that game in a relationship. So one thing I learned is that like, okay, I have to sometimes manage some stress, like when I'm getting like a little bit burnt out, maybe plan on finding some alone time for myself. Maybe plan on just like laying back and being chill. Uh, you know, Documenting things on the road as well. It's fun, but it's also going to be a responsibility. And sometimes I find that other people are like, no, I don't want to be on camera. Get that thing away from me. Or they just kind of, want to be over with it. So also one thing I'm learning is that, okay, if I'm doing something, if I'm in a project, make sure not to like have that overlap into any other things, like band or performance things. Um, really glad I picked up a GoPro. It's a totally valuable tool. So if you can see, like I picked up a GoPro about like a week or two in, taped a lot of gigs. Man, it was great. It's a great tool to have. I would recommend everybody have it. And yeah, it's really, again, key takeaways, like what I've said the whole time, is that 9% of music is not playing music. It's about getting along with other people, building relationships. It's about driving to gigs. It's about what things you're willing to endure, basically, to play music. And sometimes I like the travel, sometimes I like the adventure, but I also really like having my alone time. I like having my space, and I don't like being on the road for like long periods of time. It's not like I won't do it, but I also realize, man, I freaking love playing music, and that's all I want to do. And I would gladly do this again, to play music again. Someone asked me, say, hey, we're leaving tomorrow. I probably would say yes. Might need a day or two to prepare, but yeah, I absolutely would do it because I love playing music. If this was for something else, um, no, probably not, because I travel quite a bit in my life, and traveling is fun, but I just really, really want to play music. And I really don't like making content either, but I love talking about music so much, and I love like sharing sharing the experience, because music really is, it's not a career for me. It's more like an identity. So doing things like this, it's not really that much of a chore for me. Like going on tour is not really that much of a chore if I'm playing music. So I mean, big takeaway is that like I love playing music, and I'll do a lot of things that are non-music related to play music. Uh, so yeah, I have a big backlog of videos and might upload a couple more here to my channel. But this is a really good experience for me, in terms of just learning a lot of things about myself, learning about how to create some content on the road. And also, man, I just get to play. I love playing. So if you watched this far, my hat's off to you. Kudos to you for watching. And hopefully I get to do this again. If you have any thoughts, man, shoot me a comment. Shoot me a message here. like, subscribe, all that kind of jazz. All right.